Good morning, I'm Cody Henriksen, and today we're going to be looking at how we can actually run those JUnit tests I was just talking about in my other lecture, so we can see how that can go through. As you can see, I'm using Eclipse right now, and I've got it maximized so we can see what we're working with. If you're using other IDEs, the instructions, of course, will be a little bit different. I'll try and see what I can do about doing another demonstration using one of the other tools, but the basic approach is fairly similar. So we have in our import statements, we have the first part we have the import static org.junit.jupyter.api.assertions.asterisk. What that does is it allows us to actually do the static import of all the different assertions we have to use. So rather than saying assertions.assert whatever, we simply just do the appropriate assert as we go through. This is also a really helpful tool if you're using a problem that has a lot of math stuff in it. You can import static java.lang.math, and you can have everything right in there inside the math library automatically available for you. You can just call it squirt or pow or whatever, rather than math.squirt or math.pow. But I myself like math because I always know what I'm doing, but that's just for to help me as well. We have a couple other imports we have to use when we're using this. We have our after each, before each, and .test. Of course, I could replace that with a .asterisk if I really wanted to, but those are the three I'm working with, so it doesn't really make much sense to do a .asterisk on there. The class celebrity test, so again, I use it where I name the test that I'm working with. So this is the class that's under the test, so celebrity test. I make a data member that is that type that we're working with. And then I have my setup and my teardown methods like I talked about earlier. The setup method needs to initialize the value. And again, if you're doing a whole bunch of different constructors, you'd use a different data member for each of them or initialize them as appropriate so you can make sure they're doing the correct one as you go through. The teardown method destroys that value. So that means every time you're running tests, you have a correct brand new value each time you run the test. So it's a great way to make sure your things are all valid. We have a constructor right here. And so all I'm doing in this constructor is really simple and basic. Assert true, and then testlib.getAnswer, .equals ignore case name. And because that's the parameter I passed to it right here. Of course, if I were doing something even more proper and demonstrative, have a data member I could test against that and make sure my code obviously matches across that. But for just a quick demo, it works for this. Then I have a comma, and then I have the message that's going to be passed if it doesn't work properly. So if I change this right here, and instead of name, I just do some keyboard mashing. I've got that right there. We'll run this first test. And again, you have the run right here, the coverage with this. So I click that button and launches the unit testing. Automatically starts it up and runs it. And I have an error message right here. We get this nice red highlighting, which I said you can turn it off with. I'll go over here and look at my JUnit window. It pops it up, and I have a failure right here. And it says my assertion failed error. The test parameter should be assigned. It expected true, but it was false. And so that wasn't actually assigning the correct value. So it doesn't match the name. And so this should, of course, be, name. So we have that running right there. I rerun that right there again, and it hits OK. We run it, boom. And I have my green bar of happiness now. Hooray. Everything is joyous. So we've got that so it's running right there. We can see what's happening with that. I'm going to go to my coverage window and take that back off because I don't find that very helpful. And we're going to open this up so we can see exactly what we're seeing here for this. And so we can see those imports, we can see what happens with this. So we have our test get clue, so assert not null, making sure it's a value. You can see assert true, assert not null, assert not null. You can also do assert equals. There's a whole bunch of things you can test on those assertions. You just basically want to make sure you're passing information that makes the most sense. Although I did say not to actually write testers for the getters and setters, you can write them right here as well so you can make sure they actually get the right value. And so assert not null, just making sure it doesn't return a null value because by doing that. So we'll actually do this, see what happens when we have an incorrectly formed getter, or what happens when a method doesn't do that. So I'm going to go up here to my constructor for the celebrity class. I'm going to take out my initialization of my data members. Boom, they're gone. Now I just have those two parameters that do nothing now. And I'm going to go to rerun that test right here. And I'm going to go ahead and hit play on this. And now I have a failure right here on my get clue. My get clue has the assertion failed error. Getter method should return a value. We go scroll over here. And expected something, not null, and all we got was null, which is not exactly what we should be getting. So hey, we've got the incorrect value. So we have right here a black X in the corner saying that failed. Same thing on get answer. We have that same thing for the get answer and get clue because we took out the initialization of that. And so we have an immediate failure right there. We then have a red X, a failure of the actual logic, a null pointer exception on this one. So on my test celebrity on line 26 right here, test celebrity get answer, null, .equals ignore case. That gives the null pointer exception. It crashes and burns. But rather than crashing the testing environment, it just throws the exception inside JUnit, and it says, hey, there's a null pointer exception on that line. So you have to actually fix that. And we know, obviously, the only thing that could get a null pointer exception is the test celeb.getAnswer, because the test celeb has already been initialized right here inside my setup. So we have that ready to go so we can actually handle that. And so we can use that to go through and identify that. So we go through and just fix the first thing right here. And so we'll just say this.answer equals answer. I'll fix just the first thing that has the error, and I'll go ahead and hit play again on this. I can just click play right there. And boom, my getAnswer test now passes. My getClue is still failing though. So I can go ahead and fix that same thing, go to my celebrity.java, fix that lovely last line of code right here. And this .clue equals clue. Save that. And if I go up here, I have the ability to rerun the tests. So I can just rerun it right inside there as well. And boom, I have the green bar of joy now. Everything is happy and copacetic. We've got happiness and joy. We can see that we have code coverage now on this with the green bar right there, saying that this has been tested and verified. It's all happy and ready to go. So we can see what we can do to actually go through and run those tests. Again, if we take a look at the package explorer, I just have my celebrity test listed right inside here, and I could create that right there. We can make a new test as well, so I'll demonstrate that really quickly. I'm going to go to my project. I'm just going to go to right-click and go to New. I'm going to go over here to JUnit test case. Now, I'm using the Jupyter test or JUnit 5. You could also use JUnit 3 and 4. The difference is when you're using JUnit 3, it's completely backwards setup, so keep that in mind. It's a little bit different what I've been using. You put it inside the same package as the test right there. You give it the name, so I'll go ahead and do Start Panel Test, because I want to do the test the Start Panel object. And its superclass is just right there. I'm going to use the setup and the teardown again. And the class under test, I'm going to go ahead and type right here Start Panel and just browse. And boom, there's my Start Panel right inside the project. I can add that right there. Then I can go through and I can grab files in here or methods I can actually test to verify. I'm going to just collapse all this stuff because I'm going to test JPanel, JComponent, the container, the component, or object classes. But I am going to test the constructor for this, just so making sure the constructor properly does this and works. So go ahead and hit finish. Again, starting with that, you can create that right here inside the structure. It has the same import system that we saw just a minute ago. First step again is I want to create a data member of the type that I'm testing. So a private, and then a start panel, and I'll call it test panel. Again, boring names, but it works really well. Okay, so to create the thing, all I have to do is first declare a data member like I did just right here. I then initialize the constructor appropriately, in this case using new celebrity game, just because that's how it works for that. I then deinitialize it by assigning it to null right here. And as you can see right here, it starts off with just a failing test. This is amazing. I'll just run this one test right here, boom, and it's going to take me right back over here to Eclipse. And failed, because even though it's testing a GUI component, it just sits in it, gone, it's dead. That fail not yet implemented, that's not very helpful. I really recommend not keeping those, because having just a built-in fail test is not very helpful for anything. But I want to make sure this is working properly, so I want to make sure that the students properly wrote the correct kind of class. So I'll just make a quick assertion. So I did a quick little test right here, making sure it's a subpanel. Now I can either do the import of javax.swing.jpanel up here in my import statement, or if I'm just testing for something really quick, I can also just do the full naming itself, so javax.swing.jpanel right here. And the instance of keyword is this actually a jpanel subclass? So I can go ahead and test that out right here. And so test the start panel constructor, not even knowing what I need to be doing with this. I can just hit there and rerun the test. Takes a second, runs a remote test runner, runs the app, takes me back in, and boom, I've got the green panel of happiness. We're good to go. And so it's a quick and really easy way we can do this. Like I said earlier, I recommend you start as small as possible. Test only the basic pieces. You can test a lot more stuff as you go along with it. But this is a great way you can set up and build projects and have students give away. They can check off little bits at a time as they go through their projects. And again, you can have them just submit just that screenshot of this so they can say, hey, I've got my green bar of joy, I'm good to go. Or I have failures right here, and this is what I need to work on to solve that problem, giving them a chance for them to have some reflection and do some good stuff. And again, if you don't like that green highlighting or red highlighting it causes, if you go over here to the coverage window and close that out, it goes away. It makes it you can see what's happening with that. That's just a quick little demo of how you can use JUnit and write a quick, tiny class using some of the built-in features of that. If you have any more questions, send me a message on Facebook and we'll take a look and have some good stuff. Thanks. Bye.